Sign up today for a 7-day free trial at alerts.chartguys.com. Hey everyone, checking in on the cryptocurrency space. First thing I want to do is go over what I feel is the most likely scenario for Bitcoin. As we know, the most likely scenario does not always happen, but since the breakout and pretty much since June 26th, I'd say for the most part, maybe 80% of the time, the most likely scenario has played out. The one thing that didn't was I expected this to be a higher low to find an equilibrium, and instead now we have a tightening daily range that did drop to a bit of a lower low. Aside from that, pretty much the other 3 or 4 major things that we expected to happen did end up happening. So this is just a guideline for what to expect, and then we use the shorter term details to determine, is the most likely scenario that we expect, is it following through, or are the odds of it following through decreasing based on these clues? So looking at the current range that we have on Bitcoin, we have our 2019 high, and we have our low of consolidation at this point. I personally anticipate to trade within this range through the weekend, and perhaps Sunday or Monday we'll be looking for a break. But again, every day we get more information. There's no reason to paint ourselves into a corner by saying, I think this is going to happen in a week, and then just letting that prediction try and play out. Because every single day we get more information, and we can determine whether that's likely or not. So looking at this current range, we have our high, we have our low of the pullback. What I anticipate is that we're going to bounce here, as we already have, and form a lower high. Wherever that lower high forms, whether it's today or tomorrow, we're then going to look to pull back and form a daily higher low. So this is the equilibrium that I was anticipating would hold within this range. It just took a little bit lower of a pullback before it started playing out. I anticipate if we do top out, that a higher low will still form compared to 9,651. Then we'll look for this to tighten a little bit more, and perhaps around July 8th, July 9th, we'll get a break, and that would put us at early next week. So that's the most likely scenario for me, and everything else, now I'm going to be watching for details for whether that's happening or not. Right now, I like the 12-hour time frame for clarity. If the bulls are going to see some significant follow through from this consolidation, they want to see an inverse head and shoulders pattern. And normally an inverse head and shoulders pattern is a reversal pattern. I like it here for just showing a change in trend. We have a 12-hour lower high and lower low. Lower high is still forming. If we pull back, we have to form a higher low, and then we'll have to see a break of these lower highs to change the 12-hour trend and to have us looking back up at the top of 13,868. So for bulls that are not in a position, they are looking for a 12-hour higher low as an entry. For bears that are looking for a position, they're either entering now and top fishing 12,444 resistance. If they want to be a little bit more protective, they're top fishing 12,064 resistance. And if we lose the 4-hour uptrend, which right now is 11,526, if we lose that 4-hour uptrend, we're going to say, okay, our top on the 12-hour has been found, and now we have to pull back and form that 12-hour higher low. So lost the 4-hour uptrend, 12-hour consolidation underway, 12-hour, we're going to anticipate a higher low is going to form, and then it's just a question of can that 12-hour trend change for the bulls to be looking back up at that recent high. So after what I just drew on the daily, if we were going to see this 12-hour pullback and then a 12-hour bull break, that would take us to about July 6th, July 7th. That would be early next week. So we'll see red flags for this pattern, and what would decrease the odds that it's going to happen would be increasing bear volume on the pullback. If we pulled back, let's say below 10,500, that would be a red flag. That would be more pullback than the bulls want to see in terms of looking for continuation. And those are all little details that we look at. So I currently have a Bitcoin and Ethereum position. The last video that I made, which was 2 days ago, we were entering, or I was entering on this pullback. I entered a couple positions, a couple fills under 10,000, and I did end up selling half of that position, and I sold it right about here. And my reason for selling was the extended 4-hour time frame, and I was going to bed, and I wasn't going to watch for 10 hours, and I knew that. So I wanted to lock in a little bit of profit so I could allow the second half to continue to run. And I'm probably not going to exit that second half of my position because, again, it's not a significant size. My account value is not fluctuating significantly on these little 4-hour moves. But I'm going to let that play out unless we lose the 12-hour uptrend, or unless we don't have it yet. But if we were to see a 12-hour higher low, lower high, lower low, I would exit there. And if it looks like further weekly consolidation is coming, I will exit my position. Ethereum is a bit different. It's more of a descending triangle. And a descending triangle is when you have a horizontal base and then just clear lower highs. So we have a lower high at 324.50, and anything under that's another lower high. Let's see if it looks a bit more clear on the 12-hour time frame. And it does. So again, if I were just going to draw this as a descending triangle, it's our pullback, our bounce, lower high. If we come down and test support again, we'll look for something along those lines as far as what the tightening range is going to look like. So it's different. The 12-hour is not the same. The bounce was not as significant. The bulls do not have as much space to work with to form a 12-hour high or low. And if we were just going to compare with where we stand right now, the amount of percentage pullback that we could see before dropping to a lower low would be about 8.5%. And if we were just going to look at that on Bitcoin and do the same comparison, we'd be looking at about 18%. Very big difference. Why is there such a big difference? Because ETH BTC is still bearish. The daily trend did not change. It was just a lower high. The most important resistance level now for me is our new daily lower high at 2835. And we did drop down and break support. Now, we haven't seen much follow through that break of support. So I would consider that a double bottom attempt right now. But even if this double bottom holds, we would look for a bounce and a lower high compared to 2835 and for this range to tighten. And that's what the bulls are hoping for. Last thing they want to see is a flush down to a clear lower low. And we're close to losing weekly support as well. Let's just clear this up a bit. But that weekly support, 2451, is being tested. And they really want to hold that support level to try and give some kind of a chance of a weekly trend change, a daily trend change, something that's going to give the Ethereum bulls a bit more favor compared to Bitcoin. But as of right now, this Bitcoin dominance is continuing to dominate. And there is no change in that on most coins at this point. Very few altcoins have changed their daily trends relative to BTC pairings. And that tells us that BTC is still king right now. So I have an Ethereum position as well, but less attached to that, smaller position than Bitcoin. And I did the same thing. I exited roughly the same time. And I exited on this initial move up in the mid to upper 290s. Again, going to bed, didn't want to have to worry about anything. Locking in a multiple day maker from those entries. I ended up with an average of about 275. So took half off in the mid 290s and sitting on half still. But I will probably exit the remainder of my Ethereum position if we do lose this 4-hour support of 292.46. Because again, the odds, if I was only looking at Ethereum, I'd say, well, I'm not sure if we're going to get a 12-hour high or low here. Whereas for Bitcoin, I'm a lot more confident that a 12-hour high or low is coming. So ETH BTC chart, daily time frame most important. Daily trend has to change for the bulls to prove anything. Litecoin, on the other hand, is a bit of a different setup. Still a nice little equilibrium with our low, high of the bounce. Let's get these exact levels. High of the bounce, higher low, and we're scouting the lower high. So I'm just watching the daily time frame for clarity on Litecoin. Anything under 136.81 is a lower high, and then we'll look to pull back and form a higher low compared to 111.20. And this too is setting up for a potential tightening range to break about July 6th to July 8th or so. And Litecoin's holding up a bit better. Look at the BTC pairing. The daily trend change possibility is still here. So we have our low of 9418. We have our high of the bounce of 1212. And here's the bulls attempting a higher low. We need a 4-hour trend change with a higher low and a higher high. And if we get that 4-hour trend change, we'll call this our daily higher low. And the bulls will be looking back up at 1212 to try and change this daily trend. And any trend change on the daily comparative to BTC pairings is going to be notable. So keeping an eye out on that for Litecoin, as it is holding on better than Ethereum. So after just giving that rundown of what we've looked at, Bitcoin strongest, Litecoin number 2, Ethereum number 3. XRP, again, this is the USD pairing, but it's even weaker with just a clear lower high, lower low pattern. Anything on the daily under 4275 is a lower high. We've got support down at 3806. And if we break 3806, then we just continue with weakness. And if we were going to look at XRP, BTC as a pairing, and let me know if you want me to keep covering XRP because it's losing my interest just because it's not showing us any bullish opportunity compared to anything else. And I personally would not be trading XRP bullish if I have opportunity to trade anybody else that we've looked at, which is the case and which is what I've been doing. But if we look at XRP BTC, it's still weak as well. No daily trend change, intact, 3344. We're on the verge of testing this support, and bulls certainly want to hold that. Binance, so again, I'm looking at the weekly time frame. The daily chart's a little bit of a bounce ongoing. Anything under 3580 is just a lower high. But what I feel could be the most likely scenario for Binance, and what I'm going to be watching, is a potential head and shoulders pattern. And this would indicate monthly consolidation is coming. So this would be the left shoulder, this would be the head, and if we see a move to try and get continuation, we don't break the all-time high of 39.60, and then we roll over and break support of 30.56. That loses the weekly uptrend, and that tells us to zoom out to the monthly, and we would then look for the monthly consolidation to take place and for a healthy monthly high or low. So long term, bulls have nothing to worry about. It's just a question of whether our temporary top has been hit for now or not. So if I were going to play that potential pattern, all I would be looking to do is top fish the all-time high. Once we got closer to it, if the bulls made their way up to perhaps 36, then we'd be looking, that's still a lot of space actually, still a lot of risk. I would want to see the bulls make their way up to 37, 38 if I were going to be looking to top fish the all-time high. And then if making a bearish entry, hopefully for the bears, we would roll back over. But that's something I'm keeping an eye on. And it can also have implications on the sector as a whole. If Binance does see monthly consolidation, after Binance has been the strongest coin in 2019, the question then becomes, will that have broader implications on the cryptocurrency space as a whole? Will we see monthly consolidation on Bitcoin? Which you could say, you could argue that monthly consolidation is not far away from occurring on Bitcoin as well, with this significant move up, and a monthly higher low would be just fine on Bitcoin. Monthly time frame is the only time frame that has not, only longer term, that has not confirmed a trend change. To confirm a trend change, we need a higher low and a higher high. So for the bulls to pull that off wouldn't necessarily be a bad thing before we test that all-time high. So that's what I'm watching. We have our outline for the next 3-4 days as to what to be anticipating. And that break, if we get a daily equilibrium and it breaks bull on Bitcoin, you better believe that that is going to attract some buyers and attract some shorts needing to cover. So we'll keep an eye on it. We'll check in every day. And now that we know that that's our framework and the scaffolding of the trade, then we're going to check in, and every day we'll say, okay, does this make it more likely that it's going to play out, less likely that it's going to play out, and we'll keep on tracking it. So I appreciate you watching. We'll now update with a little bit of a farm update. We started building those raised beds, and man, 23-year-old, 24-year-old farming Dan compared to 31-year-old farming Dan is a big difference. I need to get back into shape after breaking my back yesterday. But looking forward to that. That's just one of the many benefits of building some infrastructure to grow your own food. So do good things out there. We'll see you probably tomorrow. Happy 4th of July for those in the US. Happy 4th of July for anybody in the world. Happy 5th of July tomorrow. And then happy 6th of July on Saturday.
Yeah.
4. So we got our wood chips delivered. We also got a pile of manure delivered. And this is our progress so far. Stripping away a path. We're going to put the wood chips in the path, and as we peel up the grass, we're putting it on top of the grass to create the raised bed. And we've been getting muck from the pond, because the pond's pretty much 20 years of all these cypress leaves deteriorating. So we've been swimming in the pond, and it's about a foot of muck. So we're taking some of that muck and putting it on the raised beds as well. So far it's sod flipped over on itself, some muck, we put some weeds that we've pulled up in there, and we're gonna add manure, and we'll take it from there. This is gonna be the one row of raised beds. We're gonna get the wood delivered in a few days, and it's some second tier cut from a local sawmill. So we'll piece that together, and then we'll do another path to the left of it, and then another row of raised beds. And thinking of putting some blueberries in this mulch bed already established, and we'll see how it progresses.